Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today is Catarina Schwab. She is the co-CEO of NPX Inc. This is going to be an exciting discussion about a brand new security for nonprofits. You won't want to miss this episode.
Welcome to Your Mark on the World, bringing you another changemaker with champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Catarina, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Devin.
We really are excited to talk to you about Impact Securities, your new security for nonprofits. Tell us what it is and how it works.
So NPX, our for-profit startup, our vision is to transform how impact is funded in the nonprofit sector. As such, we have developed a new financial product called the Impact Security that brings together nonprofits, investors, and donors to fund impact in a new way.
So what is that new way?
So the Impact Security is actually a nonprofit, government, supranational issued SEC exempt debt security. So we are working with nonprofits and donors to structure impact securities. We have yet to launch the first one. We are looking to launch before the end of the year, but I can walk you through an example through one of our clients if that helps.
Please do.
Great. So we've been working with the nonprofit The Last Mile. The Last Mile is actually teaching coding inside prisons across the country. They have been teaching the inmates how to code and now have realized that after that program is done, they often still have time left on their sentences and have the skills to actually code for companies on the outside. So companies like Airbnb, Slack, and others are now outsourcing coding work to San Quentin instead of overseas. And so the Last Mile needs to raise capital to launch the first ever web development shop. They didn't want to go down the well-traveled road of galas and races and who you know and building a high-powered board. They wanted to raise the capital based on their impact. So we have determined their impact is hours worked in the dev shop. The Last Mile has to train the individuals to actually do the work and source the job contracts, so the hours worked will prove if this program is successful. So the Last Mile is issuing an impact security that will be bought by impact investors in the amount of $875,000. That capital will go to the Last Mile on day one. It's a 4-year term. So over that time period, they will be measured on hours worked in the dev shop. And as they achieve that impact, donors, which we've already established a donor fund of $1 million, donors will fulfill their pledge to donate that $1 million back through the nonprofit, so it is a charitable write-off for the nonprofit, out to the investors. So the investors, that original $875, if impact is achieved, can turn into $1 million or the $875 plus a $125,000 return. So the nonprofit gets the capital they need to achieve impact, and they're in the driver's seat saying how much money that is. The donors, right now, their best option is to donate and hope, and a lot of donors are really frustrated by that. So they only donate if it works. And impact investors, for the first time, have the opportunity to invest in a nonprofit and realize a financial return from the donor saying, I will pay a premium to only donate if this works.
So this fundamentally shifts the whole way that nonprofits are financed, but in a way that seems to align the interests in each piece. So no one seems to have an interest in this project failing, right?
No, I mean, really, if you think about donors, and we're talking about high net worth individuals and foundations, they very much want to deploy capital. So they are rooting for the nonprofits. The donors and the investors really are collectively around the nonprofit saying, how can I help you achieve impact?
Yeah. I guess the only concern is that the donors who are functioning as guarantors would be rooting for it not to succeed. But in fact, you're saying because they are charitably motivated,
Yep.
that they are ecstatic about this program because it means they're only paying if there is impact instead of making a donation and hoping for impact.
Exactly. And through their pledge to donate, if it works, they know that the nonprofit will be properly capitalized to achieve impact. And they are catalyzing this whole new pot of capital of impact investing dollars to actually funnel into the nonprofit sector for the first time.
Now, the return that you describe in this particular deal, the return seems to be pretty modest.
Yeah, it's about a 10%, the max is just north of a 10% return. Obviously, it's based on when the money is returned. There's a schedule, but if it's earlier, it's a better return, better IRR than if it's later. So for the investors, so the return, the deals that we're structuring right now are at around 10%, but this is early days. We are trying to create a marketplace here. If the market says they need higher returns, perhaps donors will be willing to pay more of a premium. So this is the first of what we hope to be many deals, and we'll get more data as we go.
What we saw with social impact bonds is returns were pretty low, and that also seemed to me to demonstrate, as I looked at that very closely, is that those projects weren't taking as much risk as maybe we would have hoped they would.
Interesting. I actually think the first social impact bond was at a quite high return, potential high return. It ended up the impact was not achieved, but we really do see the impact security as the next generation of a social impact bond. Social impact bonds, as you know, are not bonds. It's not a financial product. It's set up as a multi-party contract, LLC. So the impact security is a financial product. It plugs into Wall Street. It has a CUSIP number. It can be held in a brokerage account. People understand they know this product. We're simply applying it to a new sector of nonprofits. The second way that we're different from social impact bonds is that we are focused on private donors instead of government for the early deals. Government can be the donor. We just believe that there are many high net worth individuals and foundations that are equally as frustrated by the current philanthropic playbook and are starting there to prove our theory.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the concerns I came away with looking at the Pay for Success programs in social impact bonds was the deal structuring costs were almost shocking when I really got my nose under the tent.
Yes, and one of our goals is really to move the cost of capital from where it is right now, hovering around 20% and sometimes higher. You know that some of those galas, it's 50%, moving that cost of capital from that high range to closer to the for-profit cost of capital of 5 to 10%. So NPX, we will take around 1% of the transaction size. We have been working closely with Morrison Forster as our pro bono legal team. There will be some legal fees, impact auditor. It is built-in impact. There's a built-in impact audit, which is often separate, and nonprofits have to raise money for that, and that's really difficult to do. So our goal is to have more of the 5 to 10% range of cost of capital for these deals.
I think that'll be important for this market space to develop as you're hoping, is to have those costs.
Yes, we are very focused on that, and every partner that we bring in, we want to make sure they share the same philosophy of not only are we trying to expand the access of capital to nonprofits, but keep it at a low cost.
And the idea of creating a true security is intriguing, but it is also true that when a nonprofit issues a security, it is exempt from SEC rules, or at least most of them. Give us a sense of the legal landscape in which these bonds would trade.
Yeah, actually early on, my business partner, Lindsay Beck, developed the impact security in partnership with Morrison Forster, and early on they decided they did not want to try to change laws or policy, but it's really a law that's already on the books that nonprofits can issue securities in this fashion, and it will be SEC exempt, which then leads to it being open to accredited and non-accredited investors, which then can actually be crowdfunded. So it is already on the books. They presented to the SEC and IRS early on to make sure that it was up to code. So they were excited that they were taking advantage of this law and wanted to make sure, which is very much our goal too, that we are looking closely at this and establishing guidelines and reporting, and so that it's not a hot mess like muni bonds found themselves in, but that it from day one, not only that we can prove out that the first deal fits into Wall Street. We are talking about even having it on a platform to show the value that it is a financial product. But also establishing that there's a very detailed financial model that shows how money flows and when reports will be issued, and all of, when sometimes people hear donor pledge, they think, oh, that might not be fulfilled, that it is on the books. And in fact, a lot of the deals we are seeing that when donors are coming together, there is interest in having the charitable write-off on day one. And so we're collecting those funds into escrow accounts, donor advised funds. So it is there is little credit risk for the investors that pledge will not be fulfilled.
Yeah, it's really, I think, a great model. I'm excited about this aspect you mentioned. I'm a big fan of crowdfunding, especially for social good.
Yes.
Of course, this aligns perfectly with that. I'm an old investment banker, so I'm
as am I
now fascinated by this intersection of nonprofit securities that you crowdfund. I mean, you couldn't have hit on more hot buttons for me.
But at the same time, one step at a time. So we, right out of the gates, are trying to prove out the impact security and this model. And we've gotten great feedback and have really loud cheerleaders along the way, and are thrilled that the last mile impact security is about to launch. There are a group of donors coming together and a group of investors. It is not mostly accredited investors at this point. We toyed with crowdfunding the first deals, and we just thought, let's focus on getting it launched, and then perhaps the next one can, this is a smaller deal at $875 investor raise, $1 million on donor fund. We're working on deals that are much larger. So great if the second deal is a $20 million deal, that the third deal is a $50 million deal that was crowdfunded, or, there's a lot. We work with a lot of different types of nonprofits. We say that we can structure and execute an impact security for any nonprofit with measurable impact. We work with a lot of philanthropists, from high net worth individuals to foundations. Oftentimes people ask us, what is the profile of a donor? What is the profile of a nonprofit? And then even the last step there is really the investor. What is that profile? And it's broad. And so sometimes that's hard when you're trying to get the first one, because it's a bit of it's not just a one size fits all, but we are really excited about that, because there's huge optionality. And even you and I can sit here and say that I'm a donor to certain causes and an investor in other investments. So we share those two hats. So there's a lot of opportunity here, and it's clear to us, we're a for-profit company, that we raise seed capital to launch the first impact security, and we believe that the floodgates will open after we've proven that and can show the world the first deal.
Yeah. I want to circle back to an early point of the discussion, because I think it's such an important aspect of this. But as we look at the returns to the investor, we talked about a 10% return, which, in terms of an annual return, that will vary depending on when the return happens.
Right.
But in any case, it's not a 50% return. It's not a double your money opportunity. There is nothing like equity returns in this deal, really.
It is equity-like risk with debt-like return.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It seems to me the structure will lend itself to financing proven approaches rather than innovative approaches. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it does seem like that's where this will end up. What do you think?
You know, it's so interesting. I mean, we saw in social impact bonds, which really helped us, that the first deal that Goldman did was with a proven nonprofit and the impact was not achieved. And the second in the preschool in Utah was with an innovative program and impact was achieved. And so that was actually very helpful to our cause. And we work with well-established nonprofits, and the last mile is 8 years in, but this is what they're raising capital for, is the web development shop, and that is brand new. And so what we're trying to tell people is, as much as you think you can predict impact, there are large funders who have large teams of people, really smart people trying to predict impact, and they don't know. And so we are saying that we're not even saying that we can predict impact, but that money should follow impact. And so the impact security, by focusing on impact, again, we cannot bootstrap the nonprofits. They need the money to try to shoot for the moon and achieve the impact. And we have aggressive goals for them, but then similarly, they have enough money to achieve those goals. And donors are saying, we will donate if this works. And investors are the ones putting up the risk. And yes, it's a smaller return, but they're excited about the opportunity to invest in a nonprofit for the first time. So we are working with the breadth of nonprofits, from really innovative to well-established, and we don't know if they can achieve impact. We have partnered with a group called Impact Genome that has been fantastic. They have essentially the person that established the music genome and tagging all the different songs and how it relates to categories, has done the same thing for social impact and established there's a certain number of impact metrics, and then they've culled all the evidence-based research reports. And so for someone like the Last Mile that's never done this before, but you can say that they're trying to, it's workplace development inside a prison now for the first time, but there is already research out there in different settings where you can prove, like, what do they actually need to try to have a better shot of achieving impact. So we work with them and try to give the donors and investors a little bit better understanding of the likelihood of achieving impact, even for a brand new program. So we find it to be really interesting that question of if impact will be achieved or not, the impact security will determine that, but we'll make sure that, as you talked about early on, that everyone is in a win-win position, from the nonprofits to the donors to the investors.
Now, one of the challenges you face is that of measuring real impact. And with Last Mile, I would argue that what donors are most concerned about is not how happy and engaged prisoners are while they're serving their sentence, but whether or not they become productive, happy, contented, contributing members of society after they have paid their debt to society.
Yes. Actually, even before that, because inside, like, a lot, not all of the individuals will be released. The Last Mile doesn't know that. It's why we didn't center this deal around recidivism. They cannot control that. They are seeing, as these inmates have this coding skill and now are starting to get portfolios, that when they do go out for the parole board, they're more likely to get out. So that could be the impact metric for the next impact security. But there's a lot that happens while the individuals are inside prison, and the benefits to them, to the salary, their wage per hour, the next best paying job is 94 cents an hour, and they're getting paid to close to $17 an hour. It's the highest paid wage inside prison. And with that, it goes into 5 different buckets, including room and board. So they're actually, they're saving the prison. There's a cost savings there. It goes to restitution, to paying the victims' families, to canteen, to other things. So their sense of self and hope and empathy and all of that increases while they're in prison. And, honestly, even if they don't get out, that is a cost savings to the system. It is a way for them to repay their debts. A lot of these inmates that we've met are really far along on their path to redemption and forgiveness, and they've served long sentences. But then again, when they get out, right now prisoners are getting out with $200. Instead, part of that where the money goes to the 5 buckets. One is to their nest egg. So getting out with enough money to live and a skill where you can actually get a job, and they're getting jobs, 6-figure jobs, salaries, 3 months out of prison. And that is, even Oprah went into Pelican Bay, I think 2 weeks ago, and she said, I'm not a bleeding heart, but I want to know these 95% of the population is getting out, and who's driving next to me, who's sitting next to me, who's working next to me. I want them to know that they're productive citizens and that they have a chance. And sometimes people say I have a second chance, but for a lot of these guys that we've met, and there are in some women prisons too, but this program is for San Quentin, this is their first chance. It's not their second chance. This is their first chance.
So you're convinced that you can find measurable impacts that are relevant, and that you're not using a poor proxy for impact in trying to find something that can be measured in a reasonable period of time.
We are. Now we've worked on a number of deals, and we have seen that, and pretty quickly we can figure it out. And honestly, it helps the nonprofit to sit back. They know what their end goal is, what they're trying to do, but often they're so caught up in backing into RFPs of existing funders and what the market is telling the market. I mean, it's not an efficient market, but what they're hearing, whether it's like you have to focus on high school graduation rates or college acceptance, and they start moving towards those goals when it might not be actually what their work, will lead to. And so even that exercise with the nonprofits, they light up at the chance to actually raise money based on the impact that they are trying to seek, and that they feel is what their work lends itself well to. So we have been able to establish that impact metric early on. And by working with private donors instead of government, we do not have to prove that we're saving or making the government money. We simply have to prove to the donor that this is an impact metric that is worthwhile, and that the delta that we're saying they're going to go from here to here is a big goal, and something that is a reach and attainable at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, clearly you are someone that a lot of people look up to, and this innovative idea is going to make you even more revered. But who do you look up to as a role model?
I saw your question, and answering just one person is so hard, but I have to say right now I have a very brave friend named Carrie Landreth, who has terminal cancer and is nearing the end of her battle. And every day, actually even for the last few years, as she has faced countless treatments and surgeries and doctor's appointments, she has met that challenge with positivity and optimism. And so myself and our whole community here, we have great perspective by watching her really live life to its fullest. She was doing that before and is doing that even in spades now. And she's reminded us what's important of relationship with family and friends and enjoying this beautiful nature. And, but at the same time, and trying to really make a difference in your day job or the hobbies that you're doing. And so she's one of our loudest supporters. She actually had her career at Goldman for the last 20 years. So I would say as an entrepreneur, you face a lot of highs and lows, and she is just a constant reminder to meet every day with that same positivity and optimism towards your big goal, and to enjoy this amazing ride. So she is always in my thoughts, and great inspiration.
It is a great inspiration. Catarina, you could be doing anything. You've worked in investment banking and in retail and in nonprofits. Why have you focused on this now?
This is my greatest passion. And when I believe in something, I want to shout from the mountaintops and tell everyone about it. But I came to the nonprofit sector really through a volunteer experience that I thought was not my day job, but really what was my passion outside of work, and ended up then working at the nonprofit Build On for 5 years and loved it, but was really frustrated with how I had to raise money. And that 4 months of the year I was planning a gala, and it was great to bring community together, but it just seemed like there had to be a better way. And so when I left, I loved the people that I could connect with, not only my colleagues, but whether it was the villagers in Nepal where we were building school, or the high school kids in Richmond across the bay. So I just thought that their faces are always in my mind, and that's just Build On. And so people said, are you going to go work at another nonprofit? What are you going to do next? Go back to the for-profit world? And I said, I have to figure out a way to help these nonprofits, these great high-impact nonprofits like Build On, raise more money more quickly. And I was really lucky to meet my business partner, Lindsay Beck, who had been working on it already and had the same drive and passion for this work. And we feel really proud that we have a solution. We are not just talking about this problem. We have an actual financial product that some people can think is wonky and other people get so excited about. And so we happily talk to all of them. So we cannot wait to launch the first impact security and show the world what we've been talking about.
Catarina, what is your superpower?
It's funny that you asked that, because we talk about that a lot. As co-CEOs, Lindsay and I, come together, and together we believe we are the perfect CEO with our skills and shared passion for this work to transform how impact is funded. So we talk a lot about what our superpowers are, our strengths, and instead of focusing on weaknesses, really try to build each other up so that we're, even as a small team, can be ourselves achieve the most impact. So I would say mine is really communication. As I get excited about something, I want to talk to anyone and everyone about it, and hope to do so in a clear an inspiring way, because there's a lot of socialization that you have to do of a new idea when something is brand new. It's really hard. I mean, now people look back at some of our most, like from Uber, people say, oh, that's a pretty simple idea. Well, it wasn't then, and someone came up with it, and now it's ubiquitous. So it's hard, those early years when you are the ones that really believe and are drinking the Kool-Aid every day. But as I said, we're now a few years into this journey and do feel like the time is now.
Well, Catarina, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Before you go, will you take just one moment and tell people how they can learn more about NPX, Impact Securities, and how they can connect with you personally?
Yes. NPXadvisors.com is our website. We have everything from our detailed white paper that we published last summer with Morrison & Foerster. We also are on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. If you want to email me directly, I would love to hear from you at Schwab, SCHWAB, at NPXadvisors.com. And we really are NPX. We work with donors, so high net worth individuals and foundations, and nonprofits to structure and execute impact securities. So great to talk to any of you who fit into that bucket, but we also do talk to a lot of impact investors. That we are not a broker-dealer, so most likely a broker-dealer will partner with us to sell to investors, but on these smaller deals, we are doing some direct work. And there's so much hype around impact investing. A lot of it is very real, but this is the first product for the nonprofit sector. So let's open that up together.
Fantastic. Well, Catarina, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and I want to wish you every success in your endeavors to create this new funding mechanism for nonprofits.
Thank you so much, Devin.
All righty, let's do some good.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was recorded via Google Hangouts on Air and is available at youtube.com/Devin Thorpe. Subscribe to this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes by searching for Your Mark on the World. Every weekday, Devin hosts a CEO, celebrity, entrepreneur, or other changemaker here on the Your Mark on the World show to inspire and prepare you to make your mark. Devin is a champion of social good, writing about, advocating for, and advising people who are doing good. He is a Forbes contributor who is a recognized thought leader in social entrepreneurship, impact investing, and crowdfunding. To book Devin as a speaker, visit devinthorpe.com. Learn more about Devin's work at yourmarkontheworld.com.